Guess who's back? Back again. JV's back. Tell a friend. In today's show, I'll be breaking down the latest Bitcoin technical analysis. Also, the Bitcoin hash rate just smashed a new all-time high. And you know, as the saying goes, the Bitty price follows the hash rate. Now, Trump also said he is not happy with the Fed Reserve Chairman Jay Powell. He says if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast. Believe me. We'll also be discussing OKX re-enters the U.S. market following a $505 million DOJ settlement. That's right. As well as Brazil's Maluz floats to boost the Bitty buying strategy. As well as Semler Scientific reports 42 million paper loss on the Bitty, floating $500 million stock sale to purchase more Bitcoin. That's a $500 million buy. Also, VanEck executive unveils massive Bitcoin price target, sees the pre-low Bitty rising 423% from the current price action over the course of the next couple of years. Also, breaking news, Bitcoin could hit $1 million per coin. That's right, if the United States buys 1 million BTC, according to this report published by the Bitcoin Policy Institute. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market. All this plus so much motivating and more right here in today's show. If you're new to the channel, important, smash the likes, go ahead, subscribe, ring the bell, turn on all notifications to receive daily premium crypto news alerts every single day, 7 days a week, just like this. Today is pod episode number 1965. That is right. We're only 35 episodes from the coveted episode number 2000, making us the most consistent Bitcoin podcast in existence. So yeah, today is April 17th, 2025. I'm your host, JV. Market's back in the green. We're up roughly 700 on the day, just recaptured $85,000, which is pretty nice. And let's kick it off with our market watch as we do each and every day. Pretty little bitty above 85.6 already on Coin360. Ethereum is even up, getting a warm piece of the sidewalk today, just shy of 1600. Solana up 6.5%. The bulk of the alts are pumping and in the green. And checking out coinmarketcap.com. The current crypto market cap sits at 2.67 trillion. Pretty little bitty market cap sitting at 1.688 trillion. We got roughly 65 billion worth of volume over the past 24 hours. And checking out the Bitcoin dominance coming in today strong at 63.2%. Ether dominance coming in weak at 7.2%. Sorry, Vitalik, it is what it is. And checking out top 100 crypto gainers past 24 hours, we got Render leading the pack, up 7% on the day, followed by the FET, up 7%, followed by Tau, up 5.6%, followed by Bitcoin Trash. But let me know which alts you're bullish on, if any, for the bull. Holla at you, motherfucking boy. And checking out the crypto bulls. We get a visual perspective on the day. As you can see, bulk of the market in the green. I'd say maybe 70-30 green over red for the day. And zooming out on the weekly, I'd say 90-10 green over red, which is dope. And zooming out on the monthly, unfortunately, it's about 80-20 red over green. And the biggest loser, which is the infamous mantra rug pull, which saw 90% of the market crash virtually overnight. And checking out the crypto greed and fear index. Today we're in fear, rated a 29. Yesterday a 38. Last week a 18. In the extreme fear, oh no. And last month was a 32 in fear. And checking out the infamous time chain calendar. We're currently on block number 892,855. We got 157,145 blocks until the next halving of 2028. And how many sats can you stack per dollar? Let's get a refresh and see if it gives us the special data. And if it doesn't share the data, it's a hater. But it does give us the data. And today it's 1,176 sats per dollar. So pick up the sats, put down the gats, pick up some Bitcoin caps from my man Sergio over at bitcoincaps.net. And if you don't know, now you know. Yeah, let's continue fam-a-lam with our TA. Here's the latest fam, and also pull up the live the live charts after the infamous freeze frame. But anyways, Bitcoin price levels to watch as the Fed rate cut hopes fade. And also in breaking news, Bitcoin hash rate just hit a new all-time high. And we all know price follows the hash rate. So this is an important metric, which tells the real tale of the tape. And then in other news, President Trump said he is not happy with the Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell, quoting him here, if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast. Believe me, he'll go do him like he did Gary Gensler. Why not? And breaking news, Trump administration says the U.S. may buy Bitcoin using tariff revenue. That was big news I shared the other day. Very bullish, obviously, for crypto. And I think it's naturally going to happen. There's a lot of clever ways for them to use net neutral ways to acquire Bitcoin without using taxpayer dollars. So hopefully that will continue here with the Trump administration. But nonetheless, Bitcoin's price failed. Another attempt at breaking above 86 resistance today as Fed Chair Jay Powell dashed hopes of early rate cuts, citing the impact of the Trump tariffs. Since April 9th, the pre-little bitty price formed the daily candle highs between 75 and 86.4, but has been unable to produce a close above 86. But the silver lining, we're back above 85 at the time of the live. Polymarket bettors say there is an 88% chance that the current interest rates will remain between 4.25% and 4.5%, leaving just a 10% probability of a 0.25% rate cut. Let me know your thoughts on that. However, a common market belief is that any bearish price action from unchanged interest rates is already priced in. An example, April 16th, U.S. Fed Chair Jay Powell indicated the Fed is not rushing to cut the interest rates. Speaking in Chi-Town, he emphasized a wait-and-see approach, needing more economic data before adjusting the policy. Powell highlighted the risk from President T's tariffs, and that's right, if you missed the memo, President T is the new nickname of Trump by Bukele, and of course, Trump is now referring to Bukele as President B. So we got Bitcoin Presidents B and Bitcoin President T, which could drive inflation and slow the growth, potentially creating a challenging scenario for the Fed's dual mandate of stable prices and maximum employment. The level of the tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, quoting Jay Powell here. The same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. Jay Powell ain't my motherfucking pal, just like Tommy ain't my motherfucking boy. He stressed maintaining a restrictive policy to ensure the inflation doesn't persist, suggesting any immediate rate cut despite the market volatility and the tariff uncertainties. As a result, President T has threatened Powell with termination, just like he did Gensler, arguing that he is always too late and wrong, and that his April 16th report was a typical and complete mess. Quoting him here, Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. Do you think the Trumpster will terminate Jay Powell once and for all? Does he have the power to terminate him? Let me know your thoughts. Meanwhile, Polymarket now says a 46% chance the pretty little bitty price hits 90 G's on April 30th, with less than, or I should say by April 30th, with less than 5% possibility of hitting a new all-time high above 110 as price discovery was achieved back in January, inauguration day, current all-time high 1093. I repeat, 1093. So the key levels for you guys to watch: Bitcoin must flip 86. We're on the cusp of doing that right now to support, and then we could clearly march higher to 90 and retest all-time highs above 1093. But above that, there's other major supply zones stretching all the way to 91.2, where the 100-day simple moving average is sitting like a young Scottie Pippen. The Bulls, young Scottie Pippen, Chicago, let's go. Also have to overcome this barrier in order to increase their chances of the pretty little bitty run into 100 G's. Six-figure bitty, send it. But anyways, fam, I do promise to share with you some of the live charts, which is actually my favorite part of the TA versus just reading you TA from other analysts. So let's check that out right now. Again, welcome everyone joining us. Biddy above 85. We just hit 422. Happy 420 broskies. Over 600 live viewers. Rookie numbers. Clearly, we got to get the numbers up, but you guys are in control of that. Remember to smash the likes, repost the stream. It's free to do so, and show us some love over on the YouTube channel over at cryptonewsalerts.net. So as you can see on the 10-minute chart, blue bull scenario sitting at 88 G's, which is a 3,000 rise from the current price action. And yes, this is live and in the flesh via TradingView, via the Coinbase exchange, which is the largest crypto exchange, at least in the United States of America. And rising wedge formation on the hourly, green bull scenario at 88, similar to the 10-minute chart. Two bear scenarios on the 1 hour, one sitting at just shy of 78.6 and another one in the orange sitting at 73.5. And zooming out from the 1 hour, we take a look at a 4 hour. The 4 hour chart says it's going up forever, JV. It's going up forever, Nipsey. Two bear scenarios, though, unfortunately, sitting at around 73.5. However, the silver lining is for the past 8 hours, we've been pumping and jumping, thumping. Let's get it as we continue to march where no man has gone before. But as you can see on the daily chart, we also have a bull scenario, rising wedge followed by a falling wedge. Bull scenario is just shy of 112. Obviously, that would recapture price discovery. Bear scenario, just shy of 69 Gs. And super bear, sitting at 49,000. But who cares about the super bear? They're in hibernation in the bull season. And checking out the weekly chart, as you can see, we still have the sexy cup and handle target sitting pretty at 124. No diddy. The silver lining here is we finally had a green weekly candle close for the first time in a couple of weeks, and we're forming green already for this current week, and we'll get a new candle close here in a few days over the weekend. And zooming out a little further there, we'll check out the monthly, and the monthly says, JV, it's going up forever, broski. As you can see, thus far, forming a green candle for April. Past couple of months have been bearish. Hopefully, we can continue the bullish momentum now that we're in the second quarter of 2025. And if you don't know, now you know. Next story of the day. Now we broke down the TA. We're going to be discussing this $505 million fine. That's right. One of the larger crypto exchanges, OKX, re-enters the U.S. market following a $505 million Department of Justice settlement. It seems like just yesterday, the Department of Justice collected $4.3 billion from CZ, former Binance CEO. So they're crushing it, DOJ. Good Lord. But yeah, man, the crypto exchange OKX announced that it is re-entering the U.S. market. Apparently, it was away. So it says it's going to return to the U.S. market along with an appointment from former Barclays director Roshan Robert as the U.S. CEO. Quoting him here, today I am thrilled to announce the launch of OKX's centralized crypto exchange and the OKX wallet in the United States of America, alongside the establishment of our regional headquarters in San Jose, California. OKX, if you're watching this right now and you're thinking about a sponsorship on the #1 daily Bitcoin podcast, reach out to your boy. Now, all existing OKCoin users will be migrated to the new platform, which Robert said will lead to a better overall experience. The promised improvements include deeper liquidity, lower fees, and advanced trading tools. The official announcement reads right here from OKX, bring a new alternative to America. Let me know if any of you guys have ever used it in the past, I guess before they stopped doing business in America, because apparently they are back. Now, OKX will not roll out the upgrade in one shot. Instead, the new platform will take a phased approach to onboard new customers. The exchange plans to follow the cautious approach with nationwide launch later in this year. We're beginning with a phased rollout for the new customers to ensure a smooth, secure onboarding process with a broader nationwide launch planned for later in the year. They also promise integrations with local banks and support for major assets, including the preload BIDI, Ether, USDT, and USDZ. Robert noted the company maintains a global proof of reserves for all of its assets, which it published monthly or will publish by cybersecurity firm Hacken. Now, compliance services lead at Hacken told Cointelegraph that its team expands upon simple proof of reserves by validating the OKX liabilities, by reconstructing and verifying their ZK Stark circuit using official tools and reviewing 21,000 user proof files. Good Lord, that sounds like a lot of work. Good, thank God for them. The firm also verifies wallet control by the company by checking the signatures, ultimately verifying their funds. In addition to the trading platform, the firm is also rolling out their wallet to the US-based customers. The wallet supports 130 blockchains and features a DEX aggregator, allowing access to over 10 million tokens on platforms including Ethereum, Solana, and Base. Base being the new Coinbase token, which recently just got, I don't know if it was a rug pull or what, but I saw some traders ultimately crying that they got wrecked or rug pulled with that one. So good luck. But anyways, the report followed OKX hiring former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Wow. To advise it over a federal probe that resulted in the firm pleading guilty to several violations, agreeing to pay $505 million in fines and penalties. Interesting. The exchange admitted February 24th operating an unlicensed money transmitting business in violation of the U.S. anti-money laundering laws. So apparently they weren't following all the laws, so they have to pay the $500 million fine so that they can remain operational. And after the investigation concluded, OKX said it would seek out a compliance consultant to remedy the problems revealed by the federal probe. Anal probe, anyone? And improve its compliance efforts. OKX's CEO wrote the following: our vision is to make OKX the gold standard of global compliance at scale across different markets. Yeah, because a $505 million fine will definitely get you there as far as having to have that goal. But anyways, let me know your thoughts with the exchange. Let me know if you ever use the exchange. And speaking of the exchanges, never keep on the exchange what you can't afford to lose, knowing not your keys, not your coins. But next story of the day, broskies. Holy shit. We're just getting started. We still got a lot to share. Here's the latest coming out of Brazil. After the infamous freeze frame, of course, headline reads, Brazil's Meluís, I am probably butchering the last name, but I digress, floats to boost Bitcoin buying strategy. That's right. Rio de Janeiro, stand up. Brazilian fintech firm, it's a company, Meluís, has floated a plan to expand the Bitcoin holdings and make a crypto strategic asset on the company books. Another one bites the dust. And another one down, and another one. Yeah, so this city, Meluís, which provides cashback and company, cashback financial technology services taking place to make Bitcoin the primary strategic asset for the firm's treasury to shareholders in a meeting slated for May 6th in a few weeks. That's right. The company says its core business will remain unchanged, but the generation of the cash from operations is fundamental to the strategy of acquiring more Bitcoin over time. If the shareholders approve the measure, Bitcoin will be adopted as the firm's main strategic treasury asset, but it also looks to foster the incremental generation of the Bitcoin of its shareholders, whether through the generation of operating cash or through the possible financial transaction strategic incentives. Meaning, shareholders who disagree with the new direction and held their shares before April 14th can request a reimbursement. That's right. So in a recent trading session after the Bitcoin plan was announced, this company jumped over 14% from 3.28 Brazilian reals, their local currency, or approximately 56 US cents, to 3.76 Brazilian reals on the Brazilian Stock Exchange, according to the Google Finance, as outlined here. In total, the company share price spiked up over 27% in the last 5 days to now 65 cents in USD, which is 3.85 Brazilian reals. So it pays to adopt a Bitcoin strategy for your company, and we're witnessing that left and right. Now, Meluís purchased Bitcoin for the first time back in March after the board of directors approved using 10% of the company cash for the prelude biddy, purchasing 45 BTC for about 4.1 million. The amount of the Bitcoin held on the books of publicly traded companies rose literally 16% for the first quarter of the year. According to Bitwise, public companies bought around 95,431 biddies over the quarter, increasing the total holdings of their biddies across all companies' balance sheet to 688,000 biddies. Now, Meluís was among the 12 firms that added the Bitcoin to the balance sheet for the first time for the first quarter of 2025, joining the likes of video sharing platform Rumble, which we're streaming live on right now. If you don't know, now you know. Michael Saylor's digital asset firm Strategy B also continued its long-term strategy acquisition, acquiring the preload biddy with its most recent April 14 purchase consisting of 3,459 Bitcoin bought for $285.5 million. And that means one swoop of a BTFD. Michael Saylor just purchased half the amount of the Bitcoin that Bitcoin Country is hodling. And speaking of Bitcoin Country, shout out President B and Bitcoin Country for holding it down. Next story of the day. Here we go. A $500 million buy? Yes, please. Well, Semler Scientific reported a $42 million paper loss on Bitcoin, but they're floating a $500 million stock sale. Sounds familiar to the Saylor put, doesn't it? Here we go. Healthcare company Semler Scientific reported paper losses on the Bitcoin holdings over the first quarter of the year. Oh no. I'm so scared. The firm reported a preliminary unrealized loss, oh no, from the change in fair value of Bitcoin holdings of approximately $42 million since December 31st, according to the filing with the SEC. Semler declared holdings of 3,182 biddies valued at around $263 million as of March 31st. During the 3-month period, preload biddy fell 12% from 93.5 at the beginning of January to 82.3 by the end of March. The full correction from the all-time high to the low below 75 on April 7 stands at 32%. Semler reported expected revenues of 8.8 to 8.9 million and operational losses of 1.3 to 1.5 million for the period. It held cash and the cash equivalents of approximately 10 million as of March 31st. Now, in November, which was the most bullish month in the sense we hit the all-time high that month. Well, actually, we did, but then January, we outshined it, obviously, Inauguration Day. Semler Scientific CEO Doug Murphy-Chatorian, what a name, says we remain laser focused with the laser eyes on acquiring and holding the BD while supporting the innovation and the growth of our healthcare business. Now, what's wealth without health? What's health without wealth. Kind of is like a yin-yang. It goes hand in hand. Semler's the 12th largest corporate hodler of the Biddy, ahead of Hong Kong gaming firm Booyaka Interactive International Limited, according to the Bibo data. Semler also reported it had reached an agreement in principle to pay almost $30 million to settle the claims related to a civil investigation by the Department of Justice, which apparently is getting rich shaking down crypto firms. I mean, again, $4.3 billion from CZ, just got $500 million from OKX, and they're going to continue to shake down because they're criminals, drug traffickers, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance always comes to my mind. In separate April 15th filing, the firm outlined a plan to offer sell securities worth up to $500 million, a part of the continue the Bitcoin acquisition strategy. Clearly, they're doing that to raise and purchase more Bitcoin. Quoting them here, we may offer and sell securities from time to time in one or more offerings up to an aggregate value of $500 million, which is $500 million. Semler's common stock is currently listed on the NASDAQ under the symbol SMLR. How many of you have any exposure to it? Let me know. Quoting them again. Our stock price has been volatile and may continue to be volatile. Shares in the medical firm have fallen 36%. Enter the Wu-Tang 36 chambers, fool, since the beginning of 2025. Biddies rule everything around me. Cream, get the biddy. $1 million bids, y'all. And you can see the Semler Scientific stock price on your screen. Semler intends to use the net proceeds from the security sales primarily for general corporate purposes, including the acquisition of the biddy. Well, my understanding was, I thought Bitcoin was an unregistered security. So you're talking about security sales, but I guess securities could be registered or unregistered, so I digress. And if you don't know, now you know. Next story of the day, bullishness. VanEck executive unveils massive Bitcoin price target. Sees the pre-low biddy rising 423. That's right, not 422%, but 423%. Over the next couple of years. The analyst of the prominent global investment firm thinks pre-low biddy will surge to 180,000 in the second half of this year. Matthew Siegel, no relation to Steven Seagal, head of digital asset research at VanEck, says in a new interview with the Dalai Lama, David Lin, that his target is based on an analysis of the previous biddy cycle. Siegel cautions, however, the pre-low biddy will need to get through the current macro-driven period of uncertainty to reach the 180 level. He says he's been encouraged by the spike in interest he has seen in the Bitcoin ETFs from traditional asset managers. Quoting him here. My inbound phone calls are up like 300% from investment advisors who were afraid to allocate to Bitcoin ETFs. And now with the election and the change in the administration, they're much more open to discussing the investment case for the pre-low biddy. For those advisors taking a longer term perspective, we benchmark the biddy against gold, specifically the 50% of the gold market that is more speculative in nature. So about half of the gold goes into jewelry. Notice it's jewelry or industrial use cases. But putting that aside, if Bitcoin can reach 50% of the gold that's speculative in nature, that would imply roughly 450,000. I repeat, that would imply roughly 450,000 per pre-low biddy. Hence, it's going up forever, Laura. And if you don't know, now you know. Next story of the day, broskies. Here we have it. All right, fam. Now for our next story of the day. Bitcoin could hit $1 million per coin if the United States buys just 1 million Bitcoin, according to this recent research report published by the Bitcoin Policy Institute. And you could run the math. What if, hypothetically, we were to purchase 5 million Bitcoin, because that's what Max Kaiser and Saylor proposed to the Trump administration, to acquire literally 25% of the circulating Bitcoin supply, which would be 5 million Bitcoin. Now, on a low end, if we only were to do 1 million, which is what Cynthia Lummis's bill proposes for the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve for the United States in the executive order in which Trump put his John Hancock on, but let's entertain this. The Bitcoin Policy Institute executive floated a 1 million Bitcoin price scenario if the U.S. were to buy 1 million BTC. Now, in a Bitcoin Magazine podcast, Zach Shapiro, the head of the policy for the Bitcoin Focus BPI, said, I think, Tank, that a 1 million Bitcoin purchase by the U.S. would have a massive impact on the price of the asset. And I agree. And I'll tell you why I believe it's so significant after I first quote him. If the United States announces we are buying 1 million Bitcoin, that's just a global seismic shock. Think first, Bitcoin price goes through the roof. Agreed. It'd create a supply shock. I think we'd probably go very quickly to something like $1 million per coin. Exactly my thinking, because no other country wants to be left on the back burner or get left behind. And there's only enough Bitcoin for one country to become the Bitcoin superpower. Will it be the United States acquiring 1 to 5 million Bitcoin? Will it be China? Will it be Russia? Will it be the UAE? You guys let me know your thoughts. The discussion followed President T's, which is the new nickname for President Trump by Bukele, executive order establishing the strategic BTC reserve and a digital asset stockpile for the shitcoin area, of course. BPI Executive Director Matthew Pines said that the other nations are watching how the U.S. positions itself with Bitcoin before formulating their own strategies. The executive added that holding more Bitcoin aligns with Trump's promise to make the U.S. a Bitcoin superpower. That's right, quoting Pines here. If Donald Trump, a.k.a. President T, wants to make good on his promise to be a Bitcoin superpower, that ultimately comes down to how much Bitcoin you have. This is a measure of how much the United States is making good on the rhetorical objective. That's right. To sum that up, Bitcoin is the ultimate IQ test. Let's see how smart the United States truly is. Trump's executive order also directs the Treasury and Commerce Secretaries to develop budget-neutral strategies for acquiring more of the BTC to expand the reserve without additional taxpayer burden. There's a lot of ways to do this. You can do this with the tariffs. You can do this by trading the gold derivatives, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of ways to acquire that Bitcoin without using the taxpayer dollars to make it accessible and viable. Now, on March 12th, Senator Lummis reintroduced the Boosting Innovation, Technology, and Competitiveness through the Optimized Investment Nationwide Act. Good Lord, that's a long one. Acronym, we can just say Bitcoin Act. To push the U.S. holdings above 1 million per pair little bitty. That's right. Pines also suggests to acquire the Bitcoin in a budget-neutral fashion, floating the idea of using tariff revenues to buy Bitcoin and other potential ways for the U.S. government to purchase more of the BTC. Revenues that the government can use to acquire more Bitcoin would be the things like tariff revenue or other fees that the government collects that are not tax-based fees. This could include royalties from oil and gas leases, sales of federal land, physical gold, and other digital assets. And in fact, Semler probably already proposed at least a few dozen ways to the Trump administration to acquire gold using these net neutral ways. And on April 2nd, Trump imposed the 10% baseline tariff on all imports from all countries through the executive order. The president's order also included reciprocal tariffs for countries that charge tariffs on U.S. imports. However, the administration's evolving tariff policy has created an ongoing market uncertainty, which is typically not good for risk on assets like the pretty little bitty, and hence why we have had extreme volatility since then and most likely going to continue to have. But what are your thoughts, fam? Let me know. I'm going to read your comments out loud. Personally, I think a 1 million price prediction, if the U.S. were to announce making it official and purchasing 1 million Bitcoin, I think we can rip to multiple 6-7 figures, easy peasy. And even more advantageous than that, if they were to propose 2, 3, 4, 5 million Bitcoin acquisition, think of it that way. Like I said, only one country is going to be able to get the first mover's advantage to establish becoming the Bitcoin superpower of the world. And currently North Korea is leading the US because they hold more Bitcoin due to their Lazarus group than the United States. In fact, the United States is approximately holding 200,000 Bitcoin, which has not been audited, by the way. Trump saying they wanted to, but I haven't seen nothing yet. But they're theoretically holding 200,000 Bitcoin, but 100,000 of those Bitcoin belong to Bitfinex, meaning the U.S. government really only holds roughly 100,000, which belongs to them, which they achieve through seizing it ultimately. So how it works is criminals seize the Bitcoin from the exchanges or whatever the honeypots are, and then the government seizes the Bitcoin from the criminals. So it's like criminals seizing Bitcoin from criminals, drug traffickers, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance. And if you don't know, now you know. And that's a wrap. It's going up forever, JV. Precisely. Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang.